Nice to meet you all. I'll just go over an overview of what I'm going to talk about. I'll have a 5-minute introduction. I'll put 5 more minutes about game design, how I design my games, and then talk about the main issue, which is how we harness our community in the game design process of our games. And then we'll have some time for questions. So about me, I'm Michael, and I define myself as a game designer in my company. I founded my company, and it grew into a studio, and it's been running for the last 8 years. Started coding age 10, then started working in startups when I was 17, and then opened my own company and been working in it in the last 8 years. And I've been making a living out of this in the last years, and this is how I started. That's about age 7. That's like a strategy game, and then I moved to an RPG, and then designing ships, and then later I knew how to code, so this is with Visual Basic, but it was too much work for RPG, so it was never finished. And then finally, after doing all the mistakes in the early years, I opened my own studio, and now it's self-funded, fully still indie, building our own games, self-publishing as well. We have employees all around the world, Israel, USA, and Europe, all working from home and sharing all the development process and community management online by using Skype, for example, and forums, minimizing office costs and overhead, and just enjoying the work as in the company instead of driving to work every day. And it just gives us a lot of flexibility and saves a lot of money in the overhead. And the first game of the company was released in 2006. It's a free-to-play, massively multiplayer game, a strategy game. It's called Battle Dawn, and it's been running till today. It's already more than 7 years old and still going strong. And since then, we've released more games and still working on new games as well, and still staying indie. So, about game design. I've been designing games for many, many years. So, first of all, I'd like to know around who's more or less business development here. Can raise your hand. Not many. Developers, coders. That's more majority. Artists. Anyone? Only one, okay. And game designers around? Oh, nice, a lot. So I think there's more game designers here, because in my approach, I think everyone has the ability to game design. Either you are a code or developer or business development, and also your community, your game players also are available to help you in the design process, and I'll show you how we are doing it in our company. So basically my approach is that we are all game designers. We design basically the biggest game of all, which is life. And we can create rules in the game where we design just as we create rules in the world we live in. For example, using money, economics, governments. The way we define differently is if there's a small after effect of the decisions we make, then we call it a game. And if there's like a serious outcome of what we decide, we call it like life. But basically, it's the same kind of spectrum. It just depends where you play. For example, if you go and sit in a casino in high rollers table with a billionaire, and you are just making a small salary every month, when he plays $1 million down for you, it's serious, it's life. But for him, it's a game. So basically, that's how I look at game design when I come to design games. I just look at mechanics in the real world and try to put it into a game and make it more, let's say, a small after effect, and then it becomes very kind of compelling experience for a player. I'll show you the first game we made and what is the experience that the players reach in our games. And like I said, each player in your game is also a potential game designer. Well, another very strong point, I believe it, that any product you develop has to be unique. It has some kind of unique element. In the game I developed back in 2006, the idea was that to build a MMO in Flash. That was the first game in Flash back in those days, and this is how it looked like around 2006-7. Just a quick gameplay. You have a world map, and you have lots of colonies. Each spot is a player, and you basically build your colony and manage it, and like Travian, like Ivony, all those games, just way back then, and you have ships, and you can create units and attack other players, and you form alliances, and then basically try to take over the world, while showing all the community aspects of building an alliance, of forming treaties, backstabbing, and trying to take over the world with your friends. You have basically like 2,000 players or so per world, all split into groups of 12 people, and they all kind of try to become the number one alliance in size. And it's turn-based, so you send your attacks and come back later and see what happens. Long session kind of world, and every few months it resets. Another game came about 4 years later, which called Ivony, and that was the first MMO, second MMO actually in Flash, and they were also unique because they used very, very nice advertisements for the game, if you remember. It's also a unique element, but you know, it worked for them. So for 4 years, we've been more or less the only MMO, such MMO on the web, and that helped us grow. And I'll move on to how we harness our community. So, like I said, we involve the community in the game design process. After the first prototype went into the air, there was starting to be a cycle of ping pong, kind of uploading a new update, see how the community reacts, and then listening to the community, and then putting the suggestions back in the game. I'll show you how we do it. We play the game with the community. You play the game on the world with the real players. You chat with them. You feel how they feel the game. And also something we believe in, that when you create a game that you would love to play and make it interesting for yourself as a game designer, then others will follow and will probably like the game as well. So don't try to make a game that will be good LTV or KPI or just copies. Just try to make a game that you would love, and there's already be other people who will connect with it and join your game. And also another rule is, do not create just a launch and forget product. Once it's on the air, it's actually basically an entertainment service. So you are basically running an interactive show where you have your audience, which are your players, and you have to keep maintaining it. It's like a show, ongoing show, and like I said, it's been going for over 7 years in our company, and the product is still alive. So we use our community for recruiting, for HR. We use it for tutorials as well. And we also use the community for balancing. We use it for quality assurance. We always listen to ideas and suggestions. We use the community to translate our game. Of course, the community can help you virally spread your game. We use the community to create art assets. We also use the community to help in the community management and in programs to help newbies learn the game. So I'll just give quick examples slowly. Art. When the game went out, it looked like this. It's very beautiful. After a whole year of work in the basement. And now, after a few players played it, they sent a few art assets to improve it, and then it just looked a bit better, but still very ugly. And then a few months later, we had another improvement, and all the time it was indie, so all the players who enjoy the game contributed to it for free basically, but they enjoyed the process. So that was the payment more or less, and all the community also enjoyed it because the game started to look better. That's about 2 years after launch. It was also already a better UI and just gets to look better slowly. And then it just became a big epic mess. You can see, like, that's a zoom out, you can see how the game works. More or less you enter the game at each given time and you see the armies move around. And now it looks like this. That's, yeah, 7 years after. And that's one way of using it. Another way we use is ideas and suggestions. We have one of the most active boards actually of the game is the community suggestions. You have any player of the game can log in and just write what he thinks we should do or change or add, and then we have our moderators who open a poll for the game, and then people come and vote, and if we see that lots of people like the game, like the suggestion, then we move it on to considering adding it to the game, and or we participate in the discussion and try to see if it can be implemented. And so you can see we have like a popular suggestions, a suggestion archive, like if there's been already a suggestion before, so people can check out what was done and what was thought about it. And basically we see how many views have been done or replies to see if the idea is popular or not, and just get a sense of the feeling. So instead of having just one designer, you can have 1,000 people doing the game design for you and getting amazing solutions for problems you have a hard time finding, especially in such a big scale strategy game where every small change has so many different consequences. So this has been going on since day one, just all the time being in touch with the community. And think about a player that has an idea and shares it with everyone, and then people like it, and then a few weeks later he sees it in the game, what kind of feeling he gets that, you know, he helped to affect the game he loves and also affect other players. So he becomes like your #1 fan, and then you'll advocate for whatever you do. So you just create some kind of a relationship with your players to improve your game. Another aspect we use the community is to do translation. All the translation for the game, and we have a lot of text, is done by the community, again, for free. And they just enjoy helping us. And we just built a translation tool where they take the English version and translate it to their own language, so their friends can also play the game. And the game is now translated to a dozen languages or so, just by using this tool. Over the years, been many years, people create just videos and fun tutorials and stuff. This is like a recruitment tutorial that people who wanted to recruit new players to their clan that will be the most awesome, just put some kind of fan-based recruitment video, so people will see it and join them or like them more, because the game is won only by politics, because the game is so large scale. The only way to win the game is by having good alliances and relationships with other players. So you have basically the game, which is a community. Another fan-based art is comics and memes created for the game by the community. Most of the game is actually played offline, basically on Skype, on chat boards, on phone calls. So you can see all sorts of, let's see if this can be played. Yeah, all sorts of videos and stuff we find on the internet. Just, you know, we do one day a week, we just write the name of our games on YouTube or on the forums, just find amazing things that our community creates, and then if we like it, we just share it on our Facebook page or on the even in-game as a mass message to all the people to enjoy also the assets that the community is creating. Some people send also very fun stuff, like you can see some stoned guy also misspelled the name, but it was really funny anyway when you saw this. That's the name of the game, basically. Another thing is bug reports. Bug reports can be very, very efficient and won't cost anything, because you have people playing the game already. Like we said, we launched the game earliest beta as possible, and again keep iterating on the version of the game. So, for example, best way is just to get a screenshot of the problem. In this situation, it was just a ridiculously high, difficult opponent to play against. And you just log into the forum, see the screenshot, see the description. Sometimes you have to tell them how to submit a bug properly, but it really saves a lot of time and actually makes the bug tracking very easy. It's much easier to track the game when you have thousands of testers instead of just a small group of testers, which is paid. Also, people create tutorials. for new players. I don't know if to open. Anyway, it's a video tutorial how to play the game that's also been very used and successful. And I'm stuck. Yeah, that's a lot. Stuck. Okay, I'll continue from here. So, community management. Again, the game is not about the product, it's about the people who play it. So, for example, we had an issue where there was one group of people that was so good, we thought it's like one person using a proxy and bots to win the game. And so we contacted the group, the alliance, and asked them, okay, prove that you are real, multiple persons and not just one person, so we won't ban you. And they sent this picture. It's actually a shipping company with all the employees working in the company. And once an hour, the boss, which is standing on the right, give them a battle dawn pause to send the attacks. And for 5 minutes, they launch the coordinate, and then they go back to work. And they sent us a letter saying, you changed our life. We were so bored in this job, just running papers all day. Now it's just the fun job ever, because they play in the office and have their own alliance, and they take over the world while doing their work, and just change the day-to-day life. Another another example is a group of high school students, just elementary, I think, also playing in class. Now we have Wi-Fi and stuff, so this is more recent, taking over the world while studying, I guess, literature and stuff like that, boring stuff. But we get these kind of pictures all the time. It's really nice, and also amazing letters like I play with my dad or my grandpa, and they get to communicate with each other, and or brothers that wrote us that they have been fighting for years, and since they discovered the game, they started to coordinate and cooperate and became best friends by playing the game. So, to sum up, when you develop a game, don't think about it just as a game and how to make money from it, which is most of the lectures I hear right now. It's about building a community, because it's basically, like I said, a show. It's an interactive show. It's a show business. So you build an interactive product, and then you work with your community to build it, to see that they enjoy it, hear your audience, be active on forums, on chats. Something very important I forgot to tell. Like 80% of our staff was recruited from within the community. So like programmers, community management, all our community management were players who played in the game and were very active on the forums. And then we just took them from the community and just made them an admin or moderator or a community manager or an artist, because people who play the game are usually mind-liked people who also like the same kind of game you design. And then you kind of connect, because this is like a very epic scale strategy game, so you have a certain type of people play this. And usually, in our case, it's been very talented people. So 80% of our staff was actually players who played the game, and we noticed them, and then we contacted them, and then a small relationship began, and that's why we have workers in Germany, in Norway, in California, in Florida, in Israel, just all around, because those players just were so good in the game. We said, okay, come work for us. So, community development is an integral part of the game development process, like I described. You should nurture and grow your community as you grow your games. Like I said, recruit key staff from within your online community, and harness your community's creativity and show it to everyone else. And also moderation. Let the community police itself. There's no need to just put moderators and decide what to do, whatever. It's like a living organism. It's just like a hive mind. So many people thinking together and just navigating this huge ship, your product basically, to places you didn't imagine. I mean, the game now is less than 50% its original game design, because once it was launched, it was changing all the time, years after years already for the last 7 years. And So it's all about your community. This is, for example, pictures of trophies we sent after we did a championship round this year. We called all our top players from all the years, put them on one world, and say, okay, let's see who's the best ever player. And it was a crazy round, so active, and it also made a lot of money. And in the end, we all sent the top players trophies to their home, and they were very, very happy and to become the #1 players. You have exactly 5 minutes of questions, so feel free.
Отличное планирование времени. Вопросы?
Добрый день. У меня вопрос там по названию лекции, то есть немножко рассказать о дате приложения, какие у вас цифры, что у вас было хорошо в цифрах и что было плохо в цифрах. Спасибо.
Figures, what kind of figures, like income or?
Ну, вот, например, то есть какой сейчас у вас там DAO, например? Какие показатели DAO, как оно выросло после добавления, например, кланов, после добавления, не знаю, там, глобальных битв, ивентов и всего подобного. Дальше. Да, действительно, какой инкам у такой игры, если это можно узнать?
Well, I can give you one example that this game made a few $1 million already over the years. And Mao, DAO, all these expressions were invented a long time after it was launched. So in the beginning, it was more or less like I described, the process of working with the community and basically seeing the community grow as the revenues grow as well. Things we did that improved, the more you invest in your community, the more we did events with more content we list. Basically all the stuff you already hear today helped, boost the income. It was basically a different time back then because we didn't have Facebook, we didn't have mobile apps. It's still working because it has a very strong community, but all the elements I described today can still be used in games we develop today. So using your community, listening to it, building it, it's all elements important for the game design process. So exact numbers, it's a whole different presentation. I just don't have the materials to show it right now, but you can approach me later, I'll tell more.
And how do you actually monetize your games? All the channels of monetizing, can you?
Free to play, in-game currency. In that game specifically, you can buy more resources in the game when you run out because you have a limited amount produced every hour. So it's like Travian or Evony, all those games that exist on the web. It's the same kind of income. We just started with it really early, back in 2006. And we now work on a new game that also in-game currency and in-game items, you can buy limited items.
Hi. You were talking about that competition and the real trophies that you send to homes, right? My question was that competition organized in the game or you organized it on social media networks?
Well, we have forums, we have Facebook, we have Skype, we have a mailing list, so we used all the channels and sent messages, to even past whales that were on our game. So whales came in, and when you have a whale against a whale in your game, things can be very explosive when it comes to income. And it was very, very fascinating to watch. It's like trying to take over the world financially. But in the end, the group with less actually whales won the game because basically it annoyed all the other worlds that they're trying to win the game by paying, so they kind of united against them and they became second place. So still it was very interesting to watch. It was a very, very exciting round.
Thank you.
Hi.
My question is, everything you described, what you suggested, will work for a huge, great community of involved people, for fans. But what to do when you're only starting community, only starting game, releasing it? You do not have any auditory. You do not have any active users yet. How to make them active?
So, like I said, when I started, it's a great question. I started on my own. I opened a forum. I just sent a few messages to my friends, to a few forums on the internet, emails online, and a few dozen people came, and about 10% become active on your forum. So you just talk with them and they come back, and you just start to roll from there slowly. And I remember the day after about a month or two it was online, I just couldn't read the forum anymore because it was too many posts. I just didn't have time to that. And then I started to see, okay, this is growing way too fast than I can. So even one audience is an audience. So just keep talking to him and see how you can build from there.
Uh,
Thank you very much.
Thank you for the talk.